This is a planning application to permit the expansion of an existing daycare facility at 1733 Highway 1, Auburn. My name is Alice Jacob, and I am a planner with the County of Kings. The purpose of the presentation is to inform the public about this application and to explain the planning policies that enable this application to occur and to also receive preliminary feedback from the public. The application is still in its initial stages, so no opinions have been formed on this application and no decisions have been made at this time. This is the standard process we follow for every application. The first step is to receive a complete application, which we have received. The second step is to hold a public information meeting, usually in the community where the property is located. A public information meeting for this application was held on February 11th in the Ellsford and District Lions Club. The meeting was not recorded. This is a re-recording of the presentation presented at the meeting. The third step of the process is a staff review, where we review this application against the applicable policies, and we also contact the relevant internal and external departments for their feedback on the application. A staff report is then prepared and presented to the Planning Advisory Committee. If Planning Advisory Committee makes a positive recommendation, Council will give the application a first reading and forward it to a public hearing. Public hearing is usually held in the council chambers of the Municipal Administration Building. It is open to members of the public, where members of the public can come in and share their concerns and feedback directly with the council. Soon after the public hearing, there will be a second reading for the application, at which time a decision will be made, and this decision will then be advertised on our municipal website, and the application will then move on to a 14-day appeal period. This is the County of Kings map. The red circle on the map shows the approximate location of the property within Auburn. And this is a subject property, which is approximately 1.5 acres. The access to the property is from Highway 1. There is an existing dwelling on the property within which the owner operates a daycare. The neighboring properties are mostly residential dwellings. Initially, it was just a dwelling on the subject property. In 2002, the property owner began operating a home daycare within the dwelling. At that time, the permitted capacity within a home daycare was about 4 to 14 people. In 2003, the owner wanted to expand the capacity to 28, which could not be permitted as of right within the zone. It could only be permitted through a development agreement. So, a development agreement is a contract between a property owner and the municipality. It outlines how a property can be used. So, the property owner entered into a development agreement with the municipality to permit the additional capacity. In 2019, the development agreement was amended to facilitate further expansion to include 8 new spaces for infants. A new infant facility was added to the rear of the property. We have the view of the subject property here. This is the driveway to the subject property, and this is the existing dwelling with the daycare. And this is the existing play area and the existing infant facility to the rear. So the applicant is proposing further expansion to the daycare, and this is the proposed site plan. So 2 new buildings are being proposed, which is shown in blue on the site plan. So this will be the new daycare facility. The capacity would be about 56, and this would be the new infant facility with a capacity of 10. The existing dwelling is proposed to be converted into administration and program spaces, and the existing infant facility will remain. The play area, which is currently somewhere here, would be moved to the rear portion of the property. And this is a zoning map of the area. The property is within the rural mixed use zone, the A2 zone. The zone permits agricultural uses, resource uses, and residential uses. Home daycares with up to 14 people capacity are permitted as home based businesses within dwellings. But because of the changes made to the daycare over the years and also because of the new additions proposed, it would no longer meet the requirements of a home daycare and cannot be classified as one. It would be classified as a daycare facility, and daycare facilities are not a permitted use within the current zoning. So the applicant has submitted a planning application to enable the proposed development. The application includes two parts. The first part is to rezone the property to another zone called the Rural Commercial C4 zone. This is the policy within our municipal planning strategy that enables council to consider this rezoning. It allows council to consider rezoning the property from the rural mixed use A2 zone to the rural commercial C4 zone, provided the proposal meets a few criteria listed within this policy. So criteria A is to make sure that the rezoning is limited to the area that is reasonably required to accommodate the proposal. And criteria B is to make sure the proposal meets the additional rezoning criteria, which will be discussed in the next slide. And criteria C is to check if the proposal meets the requirements of our general policy, which will again be discussed in a later slide. This is a policy that criteria B of the previous policy pointed to. Again, this policy allows council to consider this rezoning given specific policy criteria are met. So criteria A here is to make sure that the application is to rezone land that hasn't been in recent agricultural production, which is usually determined through a few different ways. And then criteria B is to make sure the application would only rezone the area that is necessary for the specific proposal. And criteria C is to make sure that the proposal will not create any undue conflict with nearby agricultural uses or rural residents. And D again points to our general criteria. And this is an additional policy that applies to all rezoning applications. So criteria A of the policy, we will check whether it would be appropriate to place the proposed zone on the subject property and whether the intent of the zone is met. In criteria B, we'll look into the impact of the proposed use and other uses permitted within the zone and whether that would be acceptable. And C again points to our general criteria. So this is the general policy. So we will review the application against the various criteria listed in this policy to check if the proposal would be consistent with the intent of the municipal planning strategy, whether there would be any conflicts with any of our provincial programs or municipal programs or bylaws or regulations, whether there would be any financial impact on the municipality. We would check for any land use compatibility issues. So most of the things listed here are reviewed by us, the municipality, but there are few things that are not within our jurisdiction. So with regards to traffic hazards, congestion, access, and egress, we will contact the Department of Public Works to gather their feedback. And we will reach out to the Ellsford Fire Chief to check for the adequacy of fire protection services. We'll further review the proposal to check for flooding or drainage issues and to check if there would be any negative impacts on neighboring farming operations. And finally, we will also look into the site suitability. And this is the second part of the application. The proposed rural commercial C4 zone permits a variety of commercial uses, but it does not permit daycare facilities as of right. So the second part of the application is to amend the text of the land use bylaw document to include daycare facilities within the list of permitted uses in the rural commercial C4 zone. And this is the policy that enables the text amendment part. The policy states Council shall amend the text of the land use bylaw provided the amendment is consistent with the vision, goals, and objectives of this strategy. And that's the end of the presentation. This is my contact information. If there are any questions or concerns, please feel free to reach out. Thank you.